At exactly 3 o'clock in the morning, pitch dark, no moon, the Persian Gulf silent except for the sound of the water, a precision strike hit a building in Bandar Abbas, Iran. The man sleeping inside that building was not just any military commander. He was the single human being most responsible for the fact that your gas prices are where they are right now. The single human being who personally decided which ships burn and which ships pass through the 21 miles of water that power 20% of the entire planet. The single human being who posted updates on social media, as if he were running a ferry schedule, announcing which tankers had his permission to live and which ones were targets. His name was Admiral Alireza Tangsiri, commander of the IRGC Navy, the man who closed the Strait of Hormuz. And as of 3 in the morning on Thursday, March 26, 2026, day 27 of Operation Epic Fury, he is dead. Israel blew him up, along with his intelligence chief, Behnam Rezai, along with several of his top naval commanders. The entire IRGC Navy leadership, the team of men who designed, executed, and personally administered the most consequential shipping blockade in recorded history, eliminated in a single strike, in a single building, in the dark. And here's the question that nobody in the mainstream media has answered yet. The question that this script is going to spend the next 20 minutes building toward, one revelation at a time. Did killing the man who closed the strait open the strait? Or did it do something far worse? Stay with me, because the answer starts with what Iran did 6 hours after the strike. And it does not end well. Before we get to what Iran did, before we get to the missiles, the U.S. bases, the 82nd Airborne paratroopers now on their way to the region, and the one sentence that Pakistan's foreign minister said this morning that nobody's covering, but that changes the entire diplomatic picture. You need to understand who Alireza Tangsiri actually was, because the news is calling him Iran's Navy chief and moving on, and that description does not come close to capturing what this man built or what his death actually costs Iran. Tangsiri took command of the IRGC Navy in August 2018. In the 8 years between then and the morning he was killed, he oversaw a transformation so dramatic that when the U.S. went to war with Iran 27 days ago, American naval commanders described the strait as, and these are U.S. Navy officials speaking to the Wall Street Journal, an Iranian killbox, not a theater of operations, a killbox. The man who built that killbox is Alireza Tangsiri. He developed the drone program for maritime use, the sea drones and aerial drones that have struck 23 commercial vessels since February 28th. He oversaw the expansion of Iran's Ghadir and Fateh submarine fleets, the midget submarines that can operate in water 21 miles wide. He built the coastal missile battery network, thousands of C-802 Noor anti-ship cruise missiles on mobile launchers along Iran's entire southern shore. That is the real reason American carriers have not entered the strait in 27 days. He personally relocated to Bandar Abbas to oversee the blockade operation in real time. He personally published updates on social media about which ships had his permission to pass. He was not a bureaucrat in a Tehran office. He was a field commander, on the ground, at the Strait, running the most effective maritime siege in modern military history. And he was killed at 3 a.m., and 6 hours later, Iran fired its 81st wave of attacks. And this is where Revelation 1 begins. Revelation 1. And this is the detail that every financial market on Earth missed this morning, because it happened while London was asleep and New York had not opened. Killing Tangsiri did not open the strait. It detonated a retaliation that hit something far more strategically important than any tanker. 6 hours after the strike on Bandar Abbas, the IRGC launched what it called its most coordinated retaliatory operation since day one. Precision-guided Imad, Siam, Khorramshahr 4, and Qadr missiles, 4 different missile types fired simultaneously, struck more than 70 locations across Israel in what the IRGC officially designated as Wave 81 of Operation True Promise 4. 70 locations. In one wave, Haifa, Dimona, areas north and south of Tel Aviv. The Al-Qudriya area near Haifa, where Israeli military logistics infrastructure is concentrated. Then, simultaneously, U.S. military bases in Kuwait and Saudi Arabia targeted by drones and missiles. Kuwait's air defenses intercepted multiple incoming threats. Saudi Arabia engaged drones along its eastern and northern borders. The IRGC released a public statement addressed not to military commanders, not to governments, but directly to the American people. It said, "The truth of the war you must observe at American gas stations, on the streets of Iran, and in the skies of Tel Aviv and Haifa. The IRGC is speaking directly to you. It is telling you the gas station is where this war reaches you. And after 70 targets in Israel and U.S. bases in Kuwait and Saudi Arabia on the same morning that the Navy chief was killed, oil markets, which had briefly dipped on the Tangsiri killing, did not stay down. Because the markets understand something that the daily headlines are missing. You can kill the commander. You cannot kill the doctrine. And that is Revelation 2. Hold on. Because this is where it gets genuinely surprising. Revelation 2, the thing that Tangsiri's death actually proved, and why Iran's response was designed specifically to prove it. When Israel struck the IRGC Navy leadership in Bandar Abbas at 3 a.m., the working assumption in every Western capital was the same. Remove the commander, disrupt the command, cut off the head, the body stops moving. That assumption is exactly what Iran's entire military architecture was built to destroy. Edmund Fitton Brown, senior fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, not a critic of this war, one of its intellectual architects, said something Thursday morning that every person watching this conflict needs to hear. He said there are two challenges with leadership decapitation in the context of the Islamic Republic. First, the regime has numerous commanders across multiple pillars, most of them armed. Multiple pillars, multiple commanders, each one capable of operating independently. The Mosaic Doctrine. The same distributed command structure that kept Iran's missile salvos flying after Khamenei was killed on day one. The same architecture that kept the Hormuz blockade running after 50 senior officials were eliminated in the first week. The IRGC's institutional design means that Tangsiri's replacement was already identified, already briefed, already positioned before the building in Bandar Abbas stopped smoking. The strait is still closed this morning. The toll is still being collected. $2 million per Western tanker that wants to pass. The social media account that Tangsiri personally used to post, which ships had permission to live, will now be run by someone else. The killbox Tangsiri built does not disappear because its architect is dead. It is a system, and systems survive their designers. But here's the twist inside Revelation 2 that nobody has connected yet. Because killing Tangsiri did do one thing, one very specific thing, and it is the thing that makes the diplomatic picture as of Thursday morning the most volatile and the most potentially significant it has been in 27 days of war. Revelation 3. And this one comes from a single sentence published by Al Arabiya this morning in a story buried under the Tangsiri headlines that may be the most consequential diplomatic development of the entire conflict. Al Arabiya reported, Iranian FM secretly informed Witkoff of Supreme Leader's agreement to negotiate with U.S. Read that again. Not a denial, not psychological warfare, not no talks are taking place. Iran's own foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi, the same man who told CBS News that Iran has no good experience talking with Americans, secretly told Steve Witkoff that Mojtaba Khamenei has agreed to negotiate. The Supreme Leader who has not been seen in public for 27 days, the Supreme Leader who communicates through news anchors reading his words on state television, the Supreme Leader whose injuries have been the subject of conflicting reports ranging from fractured foot to coma. That Supreme Leader, through Araghchi, through a secret back channel to Witkoff, has agreed to negotiate. And simultaneously, in the same Al Arabiya report, in a detail that tells you everything about how this diplomacy is actually operating, Israel took Iran's foreign minister Araghchi and Parliament Speaker Ghalibaf off its assassination target list, following a request from Pakistan. Israel removed 2 senior Iranian officials from its kill list as a diplomatic concession to the Pakistani mediators who are relaying messages between Washington and Tehran. Pakistan's Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar confirmed Thursday morning that indirect U.S.-Iran talks are taking place through messages being relayed by Islamabad, not through Oman, not through Qatar, through Pakistan. The same Pakistan that has been deploying its own navy to escort its own commercial ships, because the Hormuz closure is threatening its economy. Pakistan, a nuclear-armed nation with a direct economic stake in this war ending, is now the primary diplomatic intermediary between the United States and Iran. And this morning, 6 hours after Israel killed the IRGC Navy chief, Iran simultaneously fired 70 missiles at Israel and agreed, secretly, to negotiate. Both things at the same time. And the reason both things are happening simultaneously is the key to understanding everything. Stay right here. The reason Iran is firing missiles at 70 Israeli targets and secretly agreeing to negotiate with the same country's ally on the same Thursday morning is not contradictory. It is the most sophisticated negotiating strategy currently being executed by any government on Earth. Every missile Iran fires this morning is a data point in its negotiating position. Every missile says, this is what continues if you do not give us acceptable terms. Every missile says, our stockpiles are, in our own word, high. Every missile says, we produce faster than we expend. Every missile says, Tangsiri is dead and the strait is still closed, and we have already briefed his replacement, and nothing has changed except that you have now confirmed you will target our commanders, so we will target your commanders, and we will do it at 70 locations simultaneously. And we are still talking to Witkoff through Araghchi's back channel. Iran is negotiating and escalating simultaneously, because escalating is how it negotiates. This is not a new Iranian doctrine. This is the doctrine that Khomeini used in the Iran-Iraq War. This is the doctrine that Ali Khamenei used in 2015. to extract the JCPOA from an Obama administration that had the same oil pressure problem Trump has now. This is the doctrine that the IRGC's own strategic literature calls active deterrence. The deliberate maintenance of a credible threat at maximum intensity, precisely at the moment that a negotiating window opens, so that the adversary understands that walking away from the negotiating table does not produce de-escalation but the opposite. And here is the number that tells you whether this doctrine is working. Goldman Sachs this morning revised its Brent crude forecast upward. Again, oil is above $108 per barrel. The U.S. has struck more than 10,000 targets in Iran in 27 days. 92% of Iran's largest naval ships have been destroyed. The IRGC Navy chief is dead, and oil is above $108 per barrel. The strait is still closed. Every corporate CFO who gave Trump about 2 weeks to reopen it is now past their deadline. And the 82nd Airborne Paratroopers, now deploying to the region, the most elite rapid response ground force in the United States Army, are being positioned for a possible ground operation at Karg Island, Iran's main oil export terminal in the Persian Gulf, responsible for 90% of Iran's oil revenue before this war. Taking Karg Island would mean American boots on Iranian sovereign territory for the first time in history. That is not a negotiating chip. That is the end of negotiating. And here's the question that the Tangsiri killing, the secret Araghchi-Witkoff message, the Pakistan back channel, the 82nd Airborne deployment, and the 70 simultaneous missile strikes are all pointing toward. It is the question that will be answered before this Saturday's deadline that Trump set, the deadline that expires in less than 48 hours. Did Israel kill the man who closed the strait to open it? Or did Israel kill him to give Iran no choice but to negotiate, because the alternative to negotiating is the 82nd Airborne landing on Karg Island, which is the alternative that neither side can afford, and both sides know it. Here is what you know now that the morning's news cycle has not put together in one place. The man who built the kill box is dead, his intelligence chief is dead, his senior commanders are dead. Iran fired 70 missiles at Israel in response within 6 hours. Iran simultaneously told Witkoff secretly that the supreme leader has agreed to negotiate. Pakistan confirmed it is the active back channel. Israel removed Araghchi and Ghalibah from its hit list as a diplomatic concession to Pakistan. The 82nd Airborne is deploying. A possible Karg Island ground operation is being planned. The Saturday deadline is 48 hours away. Goldman Sachs raised its oil forecast. The strait is still closed, and the IRGC published a statement addressed to the American people telling them to look at their gas stations for the truth of this war. The truth at American gas stations this Thursday morning is $3.57 per gallon on average, up from $2.90 on February 27th. That is the sound of a war nobody voted for reaching into the wallet of every American who drives to work, drives their kids to school, drives to the pharmacy. Tangsiri built the mechanism that produced that number. Tangsiri is dead. The mechanism is running without him. And in 48 hours, either the Saturday deadline produces the framework of a deal that the world's oil markets have been waiting 27 days for, or it produces the next phase of a war that nobody on either side has yet publicly described an exit from. You are now watching the 48 hours that decide which one it is.